let's jump in to Inside Star Citizen. It's titled Lorville Revisited. This is not just Lorville, apparently. It's also more derelicts from the Montreal team. And we'll have to see what that's all about. So let's check this out. I have not seen any of this yet. Hold on. So I seem to be having issues with just playing 4K video for some reason on my streaming computer. I don't understand.
It's a new year, and like every new year before it, here at CIG, January is a time of planning, of summits, of getting together and looking back at how the plans and activities of last year went to revise and inform the direction and processes of the one ahead. And to do so, all while still working diligently on Alpha 3.18, Star Citizen's biggest patch since 2017. One that will serve as future foundation for the persistent universe's development going forward. And to say it's a busy time in the studios at this moment would be an understatement. But it's also an opportunity for ISC to stretch its legs a bit like we always do. Maybe try a few new things here and there to take advantage of the first real big series of internal gatherings we've been able to have since the pandemic began, and continue to look at as many aspects of video game development as we can, while always doing our best to not get in the way of that very same development. And I'm sure the editors will tell me that was my longest single run-on sentence in ISC history.
I mean, that's kind of exciting that they're all back at the office, right? So he's able to take advantage of that. Yeah, okay, cool.
So this quarter, we can look forward to seeing a few teams that we haven't seen in a while, meet some that are newly formed for the needs of this new year, continue to look farther forward than usual with our Journey to 4.0 specials, and of course, continue to look at work.
Look farther forward than usual. We've been on the Journey to 4.0 for 2 or 3 years. You've been doing this the entire time. What do you mean than usual?
We're currently in progress for the next quarterly release, which is where we're going to start this week. Now, while Alpha 3.18 is still working its way through PTU, let's jump ahead to a little of what's on its way for Alpha 3.19 after that, where during a recent Environment Team Summit here in the UK, we asked visiting members from our Montreal studio to discuss the next evolution of crashed derelicts making their way into the persistent universe, including new variations to existing favorites in multiple stages of decay, and the addition of modular habitation units that will soon allow for the continued creation of new mission locations from the tiniest of barracks to the most impressive of shantytowns.
Before we get started on this, Star Citizen is filled with a bunch of locations like this, where the locations are visually appealing, right? But the experiences at them tend to leave things to be desired. And I kind of question, like, is it a chicken or the egg thing? So is it more... It seems that CIG feels that it's more important to build out more variations in the locations, probably because the gameplay can follow later. But I always feel like, what can we do to make the missions more interesting? But it seems reasonable to do it this way. And I think that's just one of the things that is hard to deal with when kind of the game is in an alpha state, but it's sort of communicated that it's more than what it is. So you look at it and you hope, especially the way they communicate it on shows like this, you kind of hope it's going to be a bit more than the experience that you have in the game. But this is one of those scenarios where Star Citizen is very theme parky in this way, where there aren't any locations that like just happen by happenstance. They're all very kind of placed and there and static and not movable and not changeable and not dynamic. They are just there, and the experience is the experience that's at them. And I always found that to be a bit counterintuitive to the way I kind of what I understood Star Citizen to be. And I was kind of curious. I guess I'm curious what you guys think about that, and what were your expectations for just like random locations in Star Citizen? Because this one is just in general, the fact that they are kind of so stuck in this this is here, so nothing is like exploration is lost because of this. Does that make sense? That's sort of what I'm trying to get at, is the feeling of exploration sort of goes away, but I guess their intention is to build so many locations with so many different variation types that it still feels like you're exploring. I don't know. Stop pausing, watch the video yourself. All right.
Derelicts are important because it's adding content, enriching the experience for the player.
It doesn't enrich the experience if the
It's
experience
like telling a
is
story
the same,
as well
sadly.
as the actual piece of a derelict that's there.
I hope they enrich the experience at some point.
The derelicts who are in the game right now are super nice. I'm super happy about them. We have really nice
They do
shapes.
look
We
sick.
can really feel the scale. When we walk, we can see how big they are.
They're impressive from a distance. The rustic feel, the abandonedness, these big, enormous, impressive shapes and silhouettes that you get to explore.
Having all the vegetation growing up on them bring really a second life, and it's super interesting to see that bring kind of adventure side of all those things, a mysterious side.
Indiana Jones kind of style, this exploring, discovering. There's a variety for players like to experience, to go back, revisit, and enjoy the derelict.
Yeah, I think that I don't agree with that currently. I wonder what the plan is for the future. I don't think that there is anything to go back and experience again. And I don't think that, like, it's kind of funny. I feel like Montreal did so well at the beginning with it was such a unique experience with the Caterpillar Rex. But then now they've just become these like static locations with just a loot box at them and maybe some NPCs, right? It's not something where you do get a new experience yet, but they could be talking about what their plan is instead of what the current experience is. And I do think that's where CIG's communication ends up kind of baiting people a lot, is sometimes they'll just be talking about the future and it sounds like the present. You know what I mean? Like they just did. Possibly like they just did. Because that certainly
I think we
isn't
can
the present.
improve the speed to create those, because they are really big location. We need to have a lot of artists working on those, because it's really a huge amount of work to work on those one, and we want to create 100 of them everywhere on different planets and moons.
Adding more of the, like, because we have like OCs, so like dressing them up immediately instead of hand placing all the rocks, the
OCs,
foliage, and all the
object
like
containers.
visual elements separately by hand. We should make actually like nicer modules that are already like pre-assembled, and like most of the stuff is already contained in it. So that way we can like deploy it, spend a bit more time on detailing, just an extra pass, an extra level of depth to the art.
What
That's
I like
cool.
the most on the new ship we did, we create a deeper story about those crash sites. With the Star Runner crashing on the planet and having the 600i just crashing on the mountain just by, we can just think about maybe they got a fight on the sky and they get hit and the boat get crashed just by.
Yeah, but I mean, this is really cool. But how much time was spent on this one thing that you go to once, right? And that's kind of the point that I was trying to make before. Is this is super sick, but this should be like the final location of a huge mission chain where something is at the end of this, right? Okay, they explain it, Mike. Guys, listen, I have to explain this. People who watch the React channel, people who watch these things, I am reacting to a video. When something is said, I am going to pause. I'm going to share my opinions. Okay? If you don't like that, stop watching. Because that is the entire point of this. Okay? If they explain it later, then I will address the fact that they explained it later. Holy.
Themselves.
We really set out to add different variations of age to our ships. So we have like the
cool.
freshly crashed ships, the older ones that the planet overgrown over, and we have the very like derelicts as like just a skeleton of the ship.
It would be
that's
cool
remaining.
if over time
Really just the frame of the actual ship that's just abandoned and rusted out.
The first ages of the derelict crash site is the fire one. That's it's when the ship just crashed, it's still on fire. We still have power in it, we still have sparks. The second age is crash. So that's the ship is crashed there, but maybe just a week after that. So no fire, no smoke anymore, no power inside the ship, no sparks. The third age is the biome, it's overgrown. It's when the biome just take its place back. We're going to have more sand on it, we have more dirt, we have grass, we have
whatever the biome
going to have leaves and vine growing up on it.
The fourth version is the paint's been worn off. It's been in the sun for an extended period of time. It's scratched up. It's a lot of rust that's been overgrown. It's been scavenged. People have visited the ship and it's missing pieces, panels, so a lot of wires are hanging. It's been used, it's been harvested, basically.
Yeah, and my understanding from, previous Tony Z talks is that something like this could be possibly spawned in from probability volumes. So if a lot of things happen either in the back-end simulation with the NPCs fighting with each other, or a big player interaction where they fought with each other, that it could spawn in some derelicts, and they'll probably they could spawn in now, like seeing this, they could spawn at the early stage and over time eventually disappear to allow other derelicts to spawn somewhere else in the future, which hopefully takes that experience that I was talking about earlier and makes it a little bit more dynamic feeling, right? And that feeling of exploration can actually exist. That would be so cool.
And I'm really excited about the derelict habs that we'll be adding to them.
I don't know if player
We're
ships
looking
would
at
decay
a
like this.
library of
No.
habs to create these little settlements.
What might happen is a player ship would get cleaned up and maybe possibly be replaced by one of these. So when you clean up a 600i, it is replaced by a 600i derelict in that location. That would be like the most perfect ideal scenario. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. That's not something I don't believe they've ever communicated, but that would be cool.
We create those library because we want to reuse all those hubs on different ship and create the different stories and depth about why that ship is there and who is going to live around.
We have like interiors. We have some that is just for like sheltering from the sun and the harsh conditions of the planet. We have some that's just for like for sleeping. Ooh, there's some that have like little bars, little setups inside. People can eat, can meet up. Some other ones are just for like electricity generation. We have solar panels on some of them.
When people find those ships, they kind of salvage them, so they took part and kind of create some kind of habitation because they want to live around those crash sites to be able to protect themselves for the weather.
These little mini camps, basically, that people can go and explore. These can be added to the new derelicts, but also to the old ones as well. We made them pretty flexible in terms of look, because we can change up the wear and tear on these things, so we can add different ages to them. We can make them look extra rusty, or we can look...
Imagine being able in some way, shape, or form to make these your own. Like, I came here, I cleared out the NPCs. This is now mine.
Like, pretty much brand new, like they just scavenged the ship and made these little huts out of the panels and stuff. The purpose is to have a multi-use multi-ages, different environments that
He's
they
got
can
nice
suit into.
glasses, this guy. I
There's
like his
snow,
style.
sand environments, different weather into the jungle. Like, it's a multi-purpose habs library that, yeah, it's just increase our speed and everything.
So the idea was to finish our library in the last years. So now with the next mandate, with the next delivery crash, we'll be able to create all those shantytown everywhere on different planets. So that will bring more gameplay and more opportunity to the player to just go around and visit them.
And what I just really hope after is it's not about just going around and visiting. Once they get in, it's about how to take advantage of these situations or these scenarios and make them as cool as possible. Just to give a reference for people who don't pay a ton of attention to Star Citizen, on the monthly report, this is something I absolutely believe will come to the PU. It's NPC related, so it probably will not work well, but NPCs are learning how to use airlocks, are learning how to use elevators, are learning how to drive vehicles, and are able to recognize ships in the air. And I believe in a previous monthly report, there was the discussion of them using railguns and missile launchers. So the threat level could go up significantly, and the unique experiences based off of the loadouts and what you come across is also something that could be really leveled up here, right? Also recognize light and dark and stuff. So I don't expect the AI to work well, but in general, the new experiences, and then now that you have these locations, you can have more unique experiences, is also good. So I don't know. It's just one of these things where I always look, and the way they speak about it, this is a lot of artists talking, right? Oh, you can go and explore these locations. And I feel like games that I've played that have fantastic visuals and immersive experiences are those experiences enhance the gameplay so much. What Star Citizen lacks is the gameplay, right? So when you have this amazing gameplay and then you're here and you're fully immersed in it and you're, you know, interacting with items and things like that, that's when it wins. But right now, it's this focus on these locations, and I feel like I don't appreciate them as much as I could because I'm not enjoying the experience from the beginning in the first place. So I have a hard time immersing myself in the location and really appreciating the hard work that the artists do and how great they actually make things look. Occasionally when I just, you land on a planet, or the first time I came to these derelicts in 318 with that big wreck that we talked about earlier, that was awesome, right? But it's only awesome once.
And if there's one constant in game development, that's change. Or in this case, the continuing iteration by a dedicated team to populate the planets and moons of Stanton and Pyro with not only the derelicts and shantytowns that we saw, but our landing zones like Lorville. Now, we first spoke of the upcoming changes to Lorville in a Journey to 4.0 segment at CitizenCon 2952. But while we had the folks in town, we thought it'd be worth checking in on the team's progress while they were here. Progress that's, quite frankly, going so well, we're starting to think this new version of our oldest landing zone might just arrive a little sooner than expected.
Shut up, dude. Yo, shut up. It is not arriving sooner than expected. 4.0 is arriving later than expected. You absolute clown. I am sorry. I love Lando. Here is your rainbow wig and your red nose. You dropped these. Okay? Come on. That is such spin, it's not even funny. That is such spin. Oh my God. That is so funny to me. It is not that this happened sooner. There's no way. It's just 4.0 happened later.
Since the last time we talked about Lorville 2.0, a lot of things have changed. It has evolved. The key element that changed is the detail level.
So
of
Max,
all the
I timed
elements,
you out. I don't
and I
think that kind of speak is
like to
appropriate.
mention the buildings. So there's details that really enhances
here
the
for,
building believability.
say what you feel, but
all the
hey,
industrial outskirts
Come on.
really give the impression of a scale of the city. It will be iconic. Our materials are much more closer to a final look. We were going to a path of adding more tints and variety in color to the
wow, it looks
buildings
good.
and the
I really want to see the windows.
surrounding structures as well, adding a lot of emissives throughout the city, and that gives like a good
It's all good,
impression of the day and the night cycle.
Oh. Do you see this? These are the kind of things. Listen, I doubt we can do anything here, but that's very cool. This is what we need. I don't know if it's I don't know what this is, but it looks like something you can land on, right? So just the feeling of I can go here and then I can go over there and there's another one, you know, is cool.
The branding is very Hurston family centric, like they're very brutalist in a way, and yeah, it will be iconic. The process of going from first pass into final, sometimes we have to break a bit of stuff because as we're finding out the correct scale of the buildings, validate how it looks and how it works together, and we realize certain things need to be aligned differently. We have to go into it and remove some buildings or rearrange some neighborhoods to make them fit together in a more cohesive way.
Cool.
There's things beyond like the new buildings. There's new pathways, there's the trenches, there's some tunnels as well going into like those pyramid shapes that comes from Eric's concept, and we've added tunnels to those. There's cranes, and they create an opportunity to fly under them, flowing from the outside of the city to the inside, and pipelines. And there's a way of finding your way into Lorville with all these things that we've added, and it has like a really fun structure, easy ways to find where you're at.
I just hope this is form, and I hope this isn't just form, but it's also function.
More landing pads, especially on the building rooftops, they create opportunities for gameplay, for pickup missions, and for the future of building interiors as well.
Okay.
Or just simple mission types of stuff to do on the rooftops.
I don't like the for the future sound. Because you know what for the future in Star Citizen
The city
means?
is
Years.
quite expanded, so it's extending much further in terms of like the industrial areas that we're adding to the outreach of the city, the outskirts. They feel like they have a purpose. They have like quarries, they have like the pipelines, they have like industry or manufacturing. They lead up to the city. It feels functional. There's like smokestacks, activity going on with cranes.
I know he's an artist. I know he's an artist. The feel, I'm dying for the day. I know that I am not saying that this has to happen in 319. I am dying for the day that feeling functional is no longer a thing and things are actually functional. I am dying for the day that you go to this spot to drop off a certain material because this is where it's used. Right?
It makes like a fun layout. We've experimented with moving
I don't want things to feel
L19
anymore.
or
I want
the
them
CBD or the spaceport in relationship to each other. In the end, we barely moved them. We've only moved like the spaceport slightly, like a few hundred meters. That's not a lot in the whole scale of the city.
No, that's not a lot at all.
What you'll see from the vistas from those places is going to be really a big positive change, I think. And it's still something we're tweaking and working on because we really want to make those work like key shots, basically, for those vistas.
Beautiful. Wow.
Travel
really
through
good.
the city is not changing other than the fact that the transit to the gates will be a bit extended, but the view from the transit
To the gates.
will be a lot different in a good way, less repeated. You feel more like you're in a real city, and we'll take like a special care along like the path of the train.
Okay.
The key to changing Lorville is the opportunity to have like a whole city built to scale, so that we can fly in and there's no zones that are blocked to the player. Different
No zones
viewpoints of the
blocked.
city where we can land, and it's preparing also the ground for the future updates like the building interiors, because the original buildings in Lorville was much too small to have buildings and building interiors
Yeah, they were
in the future.
very small.
And you're gonna hear more about the building interiors in a few weeks.
Oh shit. Okay, so it is not a in the future Star Citizen. It's a in the future Montreal team in the future. Beautiful.
So, what did we learn this week? Well, we learned that the crash derelict system is continuing to evolve as more and more locations are added to the standard system in the upcoming Alpha 3.19. That progress on the new Lorville isn't just looking great and coming along fast, it's also in preparation for its own next evolution that includes building interiors,
Nice.
which, as Maxime said, we'll be discussing in just a couple weeks. And overall,
And it's I don't want to hear this from the community. I really don't want to hear this, but I know this is going to be a thing that people are going to do. Because of this, we're going to get ArcCorp V2. We're going to get Microtech V2 as well, and possibly even, not really, but maybe a little bit, Crusader V2, because Crusader already has a lot of building interiors with missions in them, right? But they need to take the buildings and do this stuff with them at these other locations as well. They're all going to need a rework. People are going to make comments, and you know what? What did you do at ArcCorp before? You know? How many times can you land on a roof at ArcCorp, look around, and go, man, this would be sick if. They're going to make the if at some point. And considering that we may not see, I guess, Pyro until next year, they're probably going to start moving into stuff like that. And yeah, I imagine there's going to be a lot of negativity around that. And I wouldn't understand that at all.
this week is a reminder that iteration is at the heart of any game's development, and that while the new and shiny will always get the most attention, it's just as important to continue maturing what's come before to ensure the better after. And as for the right
100%.
now and Alpha 3.18, well, that's still going through its paces on our public test universe. But you should keep an eye on the robertspaceindustries.com website and socials for when this huge mammer jammer of a patch takes its next big step. And while we're all waiting, stop leaving all those crashed spaceships littered around all the new racetracks. We didn't add persistence just to let you all make messes. Well, some of us might have. Benoit definitely did. Now, don't forget that Lunar New Year is also going on right now on the live servers with contests, paints, envelopes, and roosters galore. So be sure you check that out. For Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee. We'll see you all here next week.
All right. I thought that was a very good episode. I'm, for a first episode back, planning month, all these things, that was the best first episode back, I think, in Star Citizen history. Okay? Because usually it's very bad. There was a comment in our Discord that I thought was kind of funny, where they discussed how the Montreal team is saying a lot of the things that we've heard many, many times before. Oh, we're making these things to speed up the process, right? How many times have we heard that? So people made that comment in our Discord, and I was like, oh, yeah, that makes me think a little bit. But at the same time, I don't know what to think or what to do anymore. They have to fill out the system. They have to make content in an incredibly empty place. So I don't know. This is what this team does, and they're doing it really well. So I don't really see how I can have a huge issue with it. It really at this point starts to come down to how do we make those locations more interesting? And it's not through making them more visually interesting. It's making them more appealing to go to from the experience, from what you can get there, from the mission types, and just really like from a game design perspective instead of a visual design perspective. So, yep. And I think we all know that that's not happening anytime soon. So they might as well just keep making the locations more unique. Because again, you're talking to an art team there. That's what they're going to do. But great first ISC back. I really enjoyed it. And hopefully more like that in the future, but focused on some 319 gameplay features. Looking forward to it, actually. Because 318 is pretty good. And then I just hope that a lot more things are going to iterate on 318 and a lot less on the new shiny things. Like Jared made that point at the end, and I think that's really important, you know? It's not all about the new shiny, it's about fixing the old and making it better.